Smart 24, driving business.
Hello there, very good evening to you, wherever you're watching us from. Thank you so much for choosing to watch Smart 24 TV as we do drive your business. My name is Anthony, and this is the point where, of course, we talk policy, we bring policymakers on board, and the key players in the economy here in Uganda, but also in the East African community, looking at what could be some of the pointers of development in our region, and what could be some of the opportunities that are unseen that could be tapped into in order to maximize our development here in Uganda, as well in the region as East Africa. Remember to follow the show on Twitter, that's at Smart24 TV, and you can also follow me on my personal handle at Anthony Sebale to get more, of course, of the latest here on the world of business at Smart24 TV, where we say we do drive your business. And of course, today, being a Monday, we are talking the East African integration and the role of the youth in this integration. And I'm joined by none other than Mr. Jack Tusime, who is the regional coordinator of the East African Youth Network here in Uganda, but also the coordinator of the entire region. So we are with a very great confederation here, representing a very huge group of people. I'm also with Mr. Ukundo Paul, who is also the representative of the Ugandan chapter on the East African Youth Network as well. And today we are talking about the role of the youth in enhancing, of course, the inclusion of the youth in the East African integration, but also getting to look into what the youth could do as far as the pillars of the East African Community Treaty are concerned. That treaty where, of course, we look into what the East African community envisaged as the key pointers to integration, including political federation, customs union, the monetary union, and the like. So if you're youth out there and you would want to know how you can participate in this dialogue, this is the right place and this is the right time. Gentlemen, you're most welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, I'll start with you, Mr. Jack. Tell us about your weekend, how it was, and definitely how your new year has been. I don't know if we have met this year, but I definitely think we need to hear from you how you've been running business over there at the East African Youth Network.
Thank you so much, Anthony. First of all, I want to greet our viewers out there in the whole region. We are now there, 7 partner states. Good evening, our viewers. And secondly, I want to congratulate you for finishing your course. Chemical engineering is the course that I did, and adding it to the journalistic skills, it's a great thing. Of course, we've not met this year. I was actually wondering why you've been lost, but it's good to have you back.
Yes.
And my colleague Rukund also, to welcome him to this show. I know he's very passionate about the integration and the issues concerning the region. So we're going to have a fantastic show. Of course, we'll say my name is Jack Tusime. I'm the regional coordinator for the East African Youth Network. The Youth Network is an umbrella body for youth organizations in the 7 partner states. Even you, now that you're in technology and science, you also belong under our network. And also, I got a chance, I added another assignment for Eastern and Southern Africa. So now I'm also coordinating the regional interagency task team on children and adolescents in Eastern and Southern Africa. So RIAT ISA is based in Johannesburg, and we're also working on issues of HIV, young people, and of course now we are focusing on a bigger integration from the EAC now to Southern Africa. Wow. So you need also to congratulate me as you also
Sure.
Because now we've gone, I think that's all.
Yeah. Well,
thank you
first
so
tell us about the southern region. When
Yeah.
you talk about the southern Africa, in which countries are you specifically talking about?
The Eastern and Southern Africa brings together the two regional economic blocs. That is the SADC, Southern African Development Community, and the East African Community. When we talk about SADC, it has it's headquartered in Zambia, Lusaka, and it's also a regional economic bloc like us, which takes the southern region. And for us in the East African community, we are lucky that we have two members who double. I think Burundi was also applying to be in SADC, but I don't know if it has gone yet. But we have DRC and Tanzania that are in SADC. So, and also SADC, there's COMESA, the Common Market of Eastern and Southern Africa, which also brings in other countries, that brings SADC and EAC together. So those are like three pillars of integration in one. So,
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Later on, we shall talk about if it's possible actually for a country to belong to more than one community and how that is possible. But I would also want to welcome Mr. Rukundo Paul. Mr. Rukundo, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here again. Good evening, viewers. My name is Paul Rukundo. I am the coordinator for the Ugandan chapter for East African Youth Network. And I'm really happy to be back. I think I've also not met you since the year started. And I think the year has been hot so far. The temperatures are, high. We're experiencing what President Trump called a fixation. He doesn't believe in global warming, climate change and all that. But it is happening and the temperatures are high. Yeah, but otherwise I've been so good and trying to push on. Thank you.
Interesting. Gentlemen, let's start our conversation from, of course, there are lots of things when we talk about the East African community and the integration, but let's talk about the pillars of this integration, among which are the famous customs union, monetary union, and at the end of the tail there, the political federation. President William Ruto is very, very passionate about this, and openly on many events here in Uganda and also back in Nairobi, he has been pushing to establish the East African Federation, and endorsing an ambitious political formation has been elusive in a long time here in East Africa, and mostly avoided by the predecessors of the president, like you may know, but one that hopes to guarantee a very big market for the markets here in the region, especially talking about goods and services, infrastructure improvement, and so on. Do you think we are on a journey to realize political federation after all the other pillars have been met? Mr. Jack Tusime.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I want to, of course, tell the young people out there that integration is the best thing that can happen to any region and to us as a generation. When you look at the history, when Tanzania, when it was Tanganyika, got independence, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere told the Tanzanians that we cannot attain our independence before our brothers, that was Uganda and Kenya, attain theirs. So he had a vision that when you're many in terms of numbers, you can at least achieve a lot. And his vision was not actually stopping on only customs union or monetary union, but he felt that if we have one leadership umbrella, we can achieve a lot. So to me, personally, if you ask me, first of all, I believe in the political federation. I believe in having one East Africa with one umbrella, and that's what I want the young people out there to work around. And I'm happy that the leadership that we have now, led by, of course, the summit, our chairperson now is President General Evariste Ndayishimiye, the President of the Republic of Burundi. he himself is at the forefront of ensuring that at least we push for a political federation. However, there are some issues that we still have as the region that we need to push. But one, if we are under one umbrella, we would have issues of like strategic peace and security solved. You've seen that one side of the border, like I'll give you an example of DRC, people are fighting, but Uganda is stable. So what if we were under one umbrella? And you even saw that the East African community led by our Secretary General, Right Honorable Peter Matuki, brought in the East African Standby Force to ensure that we curb issues of insecurity. That is one, when the region is unstable, you cannot develop. And why other countries like China and US and of course before this war, Russia, they have tried to stabilize is because one of their strategic peace and stability in their region. And you can even look at, if you give an example of South America, which has very many small countries, you find that in a region here people are fighting, people are taking advantage, they are looting, taking advantage of taking resources. So I believe that if we have one leadership like the United States, we can fix our own problems immediately, and I think we achieve issues to do with the infrastructure development. Why would you be in Rwanda where you have tarmac all over, and across the border in Burundi the roads are poor? So that means trade cannot be facilitated well. And issues of technology, you've seen communication, and it's because of leadership. Because if you look at the prices of, for example, data and maybe even SMSs and the cost of communicating with someone, you will find that if you call someone who is on a different network in Burundi, they may even charge you 5,000. If you go to DRC, there's a point where you're supposed to pay for receiving a call. You can imagine. Even in transport, you find that you need to first fly to Addis Ababa before you reach DRC, or maybe gone are the days where people used to first go to France to come back to DRC. So I believe that if we have one umbrella, and of course my colleague Paul maybe will highlight on the issues and the bottlenecks that we have to achieve that, but people believe that we are like in a house. Someone moves from a bedroom to a sitting room. So why would people not move freely and do trade? Because you have a president, purportedly a small king in maybe a certain partner state. So I believe it's something that we need to talk about, and I'm happy that you've given us a platform to ensure that we encourage young people out there to push their governments to see how can we have the same leadership. How can we move together without leaving anyone behind? Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm going to get back to you, Mr. Jack, on that same issue. But Mr. Rukundo, when President Museveni back then in 1993 met with Kenyan President then Daniel Arap Moi and the Tanzanian President Ali Hassan Mwinyi, they descended on Tanzania's northern city of Arusha for the meeting to revive the East African community back then. That was, to be specific, on the 30th of November 1993. And they agreed cautiously to take a gradual process of integration, saying that they will roll out this on a gradual basis in order to avoid what happened in the past. And they also agreed that, considering what happened in the past, this time they should proceed in cooperation in a process of step-by-step integration. And this included starting with the customs union, then we go into common market, and then we go into the monetary union, and then finally with the dream of the political federation. And currently, when you look at the current atmosphere, there are so many differences, and the political federation is not in sight. Looking at, for example, all these other presidents, they have left, and we still have our president here in Uganda. So do you think we shall ever agree as East Africa at some point to have a political federation, and what does that mean for East Africans?
Okay, thank you so much, Anthony. First of all, you actually brought it by quoting what our president has been pushing. But for me, I believe efforts are there, are in place to make sure that we achieve the last theme of the federation, which is the political federation. When you look at the first step we started with, which is customs union, there are serious developments that have, come out, issues of tax harmonization, issues of, clearing of goods at the border points. We used to take like 21 days to clear, those trucks at the borders, but now the traffic is flowing. So that means trade is happening, which is a very good thing. And I think on the issue of customs union, we have really registered a lot of, good results that are actually favoring traders and people who are crossing. Then when you go back now to the next step, which is the common markets, that encourages the free movement of people and their goods, which I think is also, we have also made some important steps whereby now we no longer need visas to cross within the EC. You don't need passports. Your national ID you can cross the entire region without even being asked a lot of things. So you realize that when you allow people to move freely, you're actually facilitating a lot of things. You are facilitating trade. There is cultural integration. People are meeting, are sharing, and those efforts actually lead to what has been a problem of political federation. Because when we don't really culturally integrate and have that one common language where we can really feel free to talk with each other with that common language, then it becomes easy for these other things to fall in place. Because it's like when I'm somewhere there and you meet your tribe mate. Let's say you are in Europe and you meet a Ugandan there. There is how you feel. Even when you don't know the person, but there's how you feel. So that's the spirit. I think some of these steps want to build in the East Africans. We start looking at each other, not as Kenyans, not as Tanzanians, not as South Sudanese. We start looking at each other as East Africans, as brothers and sisters. So when we achieve that, then that takes us to the other political federation aspect. Because you can't really politically bring us together before we first get to understand, we first get to integrate, we first get to have a common language, a common culture, and I think that's the baseline of integration before we even think of integrating the politics and whatever. Then on the issue of monetary union, which is also there are some developments happening, because recently I think member states applied to host where the East African Bank will be and all that. So I think there are like 4 that actually applied, and the summit will sit and evaluate those who applied and see where the East African Bank can again be. Then we think of how now to design a common currency, because when you have a common currency, it also facilitates trade. And we find that we are pushing. Then coming to the political federation, I think for this one also another challenge that I see are the feelings of the leaders, because this political federation thing was started way back by Julius Nyerere, and most of the East Africans leaders actually are choosing Mwalimu Nyerere of wanting to be the president of the East Africa. So for them, they were not looking at the bigger picture. They were looking at Nyerere wanting to be a president of East Africa. And our president normally has this kind of talk when he's addressing issues of political federation for the EAC. He talks of 3 dwarfs competing on who is taller than the other. Because at the end of the day, you are all dwarfs. Because as a bloc, we are competing with serious blocs like EU. We are competing with these other blocs, because you see, the world is about competition. People are developing technology, they are going into space. So the question has been, if we don't politically integrate and put our resources together so that we can support some of the technological developments in terms of defending ourselves, in terms of building a military base, because we have seen the USA, we have seen EU people are developing, very serious technological military technologies. They are going to space. So we are like, okay, if you are Uganda and let's say it happens you enter into a conflict with EU. EU has developed a technology that goes into space. So even if they want to finish you, it will take them like, a day or two. So, but when we integrate as East Africa and we put our resources together, now we start competing with those other, blocks that are actually over there, that have developed, that have, invested a lot of money in research and development. So for me, I think with the steps we are taking, they may be baby steps, but if we keep pushing, we shall really achieve what these people envisaged in their planning and all that. I believe at one point we shall really achieve the political federation, and it will be really important for us as East Africans.
Oh, thank you. We're going to take a very short break right there, Mr. Rukundo. And when we return, Mr. Jack, we want to wind up this issue of the political federation with a view of what it would look like. Because as I speak right now, many people think, like Mr. Rukundo has said, that probably a political federation means East Africa is going to have one president. What does it entail, and what advantages does it bring on board? Will it solve the loopholes and the gaps in the other pillars, like the customs union, the market union, and the common market? Because we know they are not yet perfect. Yes, we've done something, but there's still something missing. So will the political federation address some of these problems? We are still talking the East African integration, and we're saying we need to take charge. And of course, as the youth take part and parcel advantages into the East African integration and get to use these opportunities to exploit them for the region, but also for our individual growth as a country and as also individuals in our homes. My name is Anthony, and this is The Point. Stay with us. Don't touch your dial.
Smart 24, driving business.